Stromer e-bikes are known for being extremely high-end, extremely high performance, and they're just fantastic e-bikes. They're smooth as butter and they are fast as a bat out of hell.
And as someone who tested this bike and knows just how fast and fun it is, I think it's also one of the only commuter e-bikes out there that's got its own Red Bull edition.
Yeah, so when I went down to Arizona for the launch of the Lectric One, and Levi, one of the founders, made a claim that the Lectric One is the fastest and quickest e-bike off the line, I naturally just said, okay, we're gonna test this. We're gonna see if that's just marketing BS and hype, or if it's real. So that's what we're gonna do today. We are going to compare a $12,000 bike, about as high end as you can get, to a $2,000 Lectric One. And we're gonna do a drag test, and we're gonna test Levi's statement and see if this can beat that bike off the line.
I love this test. You know why? Because I tested this bike, I reviewed this bike, and I know just how fast it is. I haven't ridden that one. I heard a lot about it, but I don't think you have a chance.
Yeah, so I've ridden both, but I still don't know. I'm still questionable as well. So we're gonna head out, do a drag race. Both me and Mike are about the same size, about the same height. I got about 10 pounds on Mike, so it's a pretty fair fight. We're gonna swap bikes. So again, to keep it about the bikes, not about us. We're gonna go drag race these things and see which one wins. So, but before that, first, we're gonna do a test.
What's that?
A track stand test. Let's see who can win. Ready, set, go.
Jeez. Hey, all right.
I lost with the kickstand down.
Cheated.
Okay, so anyways, let's go to the race.
Oh, jeez. All right, that was a ton of fun. Totally. Getting paid to race, I'll do it all day.
That was way more fun than I thought it would be. So to recap, as you saw, in every single race we did, the Lectric One beat the Stromer off the line and was the ultimate winner in each drag race. This is probably about, I don't know, what did you say? It's about 70 yards?
Around 70, yeah.
Yeah, so again, the Lectric One beat off the line and through the cones every single time.
But as you noticed at home, this bike got more confident and faster as we went, and had I had another 20 to 30 yards, this would have been my race.
Yeah, it definitely might have.
I will say this thing felt very planted and stable, almost like a big heavy sports car, tons of muscle and super planted on the ground. And that one was definitely more punchy.
Yeah, it was very interesting as we swapped back and forth between the bikes. Like I started on this one and it feels just like a jackrabbit off the line.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, one of the first ones I did, that wheelie popped again on me. And so I actually lowered the saddle just to give me a little more control with the Lectric One. But then when you jump back on the Stromer, the comfort and the overall power, you just feel it throughout, and it's such a fun ride.
Yeah, totally different style bikes, but super fun race.
Yeah, super fun. So yes, so we wrapped up the race section, but before we kind of do a summary of kind of our thoughts, we want to send it to Ben and have Ben do a mechanics take between these two bikes. Now, obviously it's not fair, $12,000 bike versus a $2,000 bike, but I think there's a lot of cool things that Ben will point out. So let's go to Ben and then we'll wrap it all up. All right, so while it's, again, not fair to compare a $12,000 spec bike versus a $2,000 spec bike, I just love bringing Ben in and doing these kind of mechanics takes. So we're going to have Ben walk through what he thinks about the Stromer versus the Lectric One, highlight it again from a mechanic's perspective. Before he does that, before I get out, again, I just want to give a big thanks to Feedback Sports. You see, we've got both these bikes here in their Pro Mechanic HD bike stand. I mean, the Stromers, how many pounds? Do you remember off the top of your head, Ben?
70, I think.
70 pounds, so it's a good heavy bike. You can see it holds it just as well as the lighter Lectric One. So again, Feedback Sports, thank you. And with that, Ben, take it away.
All right, Justin, as we talk, this isn't going to be a pros and cons of each bike. This is where one might excel, where the other one might excel in different places. I'd like to start with the One. This is a great little bike. First off, I think after spending a year in Long Island and being in and out of Manhattan, this is a perfect bike for big inner cities. The smaller wheels means it's super agile. There's a lot of people walking around. There's a lot of traffic. This thing is quick in and out of the curbs, on and off the streets. Plus, with this stem and bar setup, if you've got to get on the LIE, which means the train, or in the subway somewhere, this thing is very light, easy to grab, so you can transport it. So this thing just screams that kind of big city. I love it. It's got a very solid frame. It was pretty notable too for a bike like this. Even with the stem and handlebar setup, I thought it would be kind of flexy. It really doesn't feel flexy at all. This thing was awesome to ride. With that in mind, because I mentioned that it is easier to transport, it's 20 pounds lighter, so that comes into play as well. Probably partly due to the frame being smaller, the wheels being smaller. It's just really easy to set up. So I think what Lectric has done with this bike for the price, everything that's involved, the belt drive, the pinion gearbox, everything, Lectric did something very special with this bike. It's got a lot going for it, and again, the ride quality, just really fast, really fun to get on. Now we compare that to the Stromer. Man, this thing is amazing for all of its intents and purposes. With this one, there were a lot of years in Utah where I commuted, and I would have about a 9-mile commute to or from work. So this bike with a bigger wheel would suit that kind of riding perfect. An absolute commuter. So you put yourself in, say, Denver, Metropolis, Salt Lake City, any of the suburbs, you'll be able to get in and out of town 10 or 15 miles. This thing is just going to feel like it's made to do just that. Maybe not the easiest to get on a train, but when you're going to go all the way to or from work, you don't really need the train. You don't really need a lighter bike. Bigger wheels, faster, strong feeling frame. It's just a commuter special. You partner that with the bigger, better brakes. So you've got bigger diameter rotors, 4-piston brake calipers, and then something I've never ridden before. It's amazing. These guys have an anti-lock brake system. You can see the different rotor here, and that just senses the speed versus how much power is going to the rotor. Every vehicle has anti-lock brakes. Why? Just because it's safer. This bike is bred to go fast, so those anti-lock brakes are going to introduce a lot of very controlled stopping power. I love the way this thing feels. Again, with a lot of tech, like the One, you get the belt drive, you get the pinion motor. We'll go into that just a little bit more in a second. But as far as the display, the battery function, how everything comes off, this thing is amazing. Also worth noting, this one comes in 3 frame sizes. So with that, you choose a frame size, you don't change the price, you just find the one that fits you perfectly. And just to touch on that with the One, that only comes in 1 size. Unfortunately, 1 size does not fit all, but the amount of adjustability with that one still is going to fit a lot of riders. So 3 frame sizes, really nice. To touch briefly on the pinion gearbox systems, both of these bikes have a C-line pinion gearbox. The only difference is the Lectric comes with a 6-speed. The Stromer comes with a 9-speed. That's literally the only difference between them is 6 and 9. And to speak about that, between each of the shifts, it's a 24.3% difference in each of the shifts on each of the bikes. So they just pack more gears onto the 9-speed than there are in the 6, but the steps between shifts are the same. I think that's pretty remarkable when you're talking about a bike like this. Even to go more in that, it's easy for me to say that the drive feel is very strong with a pinion. Okay, now I've ridden a lot of bikes in my life. I've ridden a lot of different types of drivetrains, mountain bikes, road bikes, commuter bikes, every kind of chain-driven bicycle you can probably put a human on. So when I say it feels stronger, I'd like to mention or talk about something I'll refer to as material interaction. Okay, so with a standard chain and cassette or cog, You've got a very thin chain on a roller going around a very thin cog. Is that bad? No, it's been around for decades and decades. It works great. However, when you talk about a pinion drive system that uses what's referred to as a planetary gearbox, okay, so planetary gears are used in automotive transmissions. What that means is there's a lot more steel interacting with a lot more steel. So the interaction is very solid, very strong. There's no slight movement of a chain. There's no, my chain's dry so my cassette sounds weird. Just because it's all encased, A, you can't hear it, B, the weather can't get to it, and all of that planetary gear interaction just feels, it's very, very strong. It's something you have to ride to feel, but that they're putting these types of transmissions on bikes like this, phenomenal. I really think that if you're going to commute, this is the best way to go for basically all the reasons that I've led to. Chains are great on road bikes, chains are great on really light mountain bikes. You're still going to be about 2 pounds lighter for a traditional shifter, cassette, and derailleur on a mountain bike, for a Dior or Shimano XT or XTR. So is that a penalty to have 2 pounds heavier for one of these gearboxes? I say no way, because of what it's meant for, the commuting aspects of it, you just can't beat it.
Awesome. As always, Ben, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Justin.
All right, so you saw what the Lectric One can do. Now, really quick, I want to just kind of go over how we set the bike up, because when you get the bike shipped, we made a little tweak. If you go into the advanced settings, setting number 11 has 4 different settings, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. It usually comes shipped, I think it's between 2 and 3, but we put it down to 0, and what that means is it gives you full power at 0 seconds. So this thing was peppy as hell. I highly recommend anybody that when you buy this bike, start off in 3 or in 4, because in setting 0, I mean, you saw, like, there was one of the times I actually popped a wheelie and almost lost the bike. This thing is super peppy when you put that setting, again, this is setting 11 at 0.
That change was dramatic on that bike. When we swapped, and mind you, I'd not ridden it yet, I was shocked by the initial torque and the wheel jump, and I got to where after a couple tries, I was putting my weight over the front handlebar just to kind of deal with that torque off the line. It's pretty impressive, the amount of power and speed and just off the line jump that this bike has, and kind of the same componentry in a way with the pinion gearbox. It's kind of wild that they put that into a bike under $2,000.
Yeah, and I really want to highlight this because I know when the bike launched, tons of media covered it. We were all stoked about the pinion gearbox, but sometimes that gets lost in translation to someone who's not like a deep cyclist that's
Bike
just
nerd,
crazy,
yeah.
right? Like a total bike nerd. But that pinion gearbox, that system alone costs about $1,500. And it just makes, I mean, Ben already kind of went off on how cool it was, so I won't repeat everything. But the thing that I wanted to highlight is how I love how Lectric is making bikes under 2K with so much cool technology in that provides such a good ride, because it gets more people on bikes. And I think right now we need electric bike prices to come down. I think that's very helpful.
I think people can all agree the prices are wild right now, and to see some really cool tech put into a bike that comes in at an approachable price, it's just a fun thing to do. And we thought we would share this with you guys, a little bit different than our normal videos. If we missed something or you have a question about the pinion gear system in general, or either of these bikes, drop a comment down below. I will personally, myself or Justin will try to reply. And until the next video, guys, we'll see you guys out on the trail.